On an ordinary flight, a father sat quietly with his son, enduring the disdainful looks from a passenger beside him. "Look at you," the passenger sneered, gesturing at the father's calloused hands. "A manual laborer, right? Can you even afford this ticket? You people should stick to trains." The father simply smiled, choosing not to engage. He was used to it. Years of hard work had taught him patience, a virtue he hoped to pass on to his son, who watched. Confused and hurt, the father just gently patted his son's head, whispering, "It's okay, son. A person's worth isn't measured by their job or what others think." Suddenly, the plane lurched violently. Panic erupted as the aircraft began a terrifying, uncontrolled descent. The cabin lights flickered, and screams filled the air. An announcement crackled over the intercom. Both pilots were incapacitated. The head flight attendant, her voice trembling, made a desperate plea. "Is there anyone on board who knows how to fly a plane?" The cabin fell silent, a silence thick with fear. The sneering passenger was now pale, clutching his armrest, his earlier arrogance gone. Amidst the chaos, the father calmly unbuckled his seatbelt. He turned to his wide-eyed son and said, "Son, stay here and be brave. Daddy has to go fix something." He gave his son a reassuring hug and walked towards the cockpit. The flight attendant looked at him, skeptical. "Sir, this isn't a joke. We need a real pilot." The condescending passenger chimed in. "What can he do? Fix the engine with a wrench?" The father ignored them, his focus absolute. He entered the cockpit, and the scene was dire. Alarms blared, and the plane was still in a steep dive. He took a deep breath, his hands moving with a practiced, steady confidence. He wasn't just a manual laborer. He was a former Air Force test pilot, one who had flown experimental aircraft under the most extreme conditions. His calloused hands, the very ones mocked earlier, now expertly danced across the complex controls. They were hands that had built his home, tended his garden, and held his son. But they had also tamed beasts of the sky. He disconnected the malfunctioning autopilot and grabbed the yoke. With immense effort, he began to pull the plane out of its dive. The G-forces were immense, pressing him into his seat. The structure of the aircraft groaned under the strain. He communicated with air traffic control, his voice a beacon of calm in the storm. "Mayday, Mayday," he said, his tone professional and unwavering. "This is Flight 734. We have an emergency. Both pilots are down. I am a former pilot, and I have control of the aircraft." On the ground, the controllers were stunned, but immediately began guiding him. Back in the cabin, the passengers felt the plane slowly stabilizing. The terrifying descent leveled off. A fragile sense of hope began to replace the raw fear. The passenger who had mocked him now stared in disbelief toward the cockpit door, his mouth agape. The world he thought he understood had been turned completely upside down. He saw the father's son, sitting alone, looking scared, but also proud, clutching a small toy airplane his dad had given him. A wave of shame washed over the man. He had judged a hero by his hands, not by the strength and skill they possessed. With guidance from the ground, the father expertly lined up the aircraft for an emergency landing. It was a difficult approach, with crosswinds testing his every move. But his years of training, the countless hours spent in simulators and real-life emergencies, had prepared him for this exact moment. He was not just flying a plane. He was carrying the lives of over 200 people on his shoulders. He thought of his son, and a wave of determination solidified his resolve. The landing was rough but safe. As the plane touched down, skidding along the runway before coming to a stop, the cabin erupted in cheers and applause. Relief washed over everyone in a powerful, emotional wave. When the cockpit door opened, the father emerged, looking tired but composed. The cabin fell silent. Every eye was on him. The sneering passenger was the first to stand up, his face filled with awe and remorse. He began to applaud, and soon the entire plane joined in. A standing ovation for the quiet man who had saved them all. He walked back to his seat, where his son launched into his arms. "Daddy, you flew the plane! You're a hero!" The father held him tight, whispering, "I just did what I had to do." The passenger who had belittled him approached, his head bowed. "Sir," he said, his voice thick with emotion, I am so sorry. I was a fool. Thank you. You saved my life." The father simply nodded, offering a gentle smile. "Be kind," he said softly. "You never know who you're talking to." This story reminds us that true character and capability aren't defined by appearances, jobs, or social status. Heroes are all around us, often in the most unexpected places, wearing the humble disguise of an ordinary person. They are the ones who step up when it matters most. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, please give us a like, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring content. See you next time.